would like to call to order the February 3rd, 2026 Advisory Board meeting of the HOF. Are we ready to move on with the agenda? Great.
Yes.
So you may see that we do have ASL interpretation available today. To be able to view that, please pin Michelle B and Daniel C to your screen so that you can follow along.
A quick announcement. Michelle had to call off sick today, so it's just Daniel C.
Okay, well then just pin Daniel C. We'll start with the roll call. James Eash.
Present.
Terrell Thomas. Tanika Harris.
Present.
Karen Garrett.
I am here.
Ellie Fisher. Deb Gross. Deidre had let us know she's running a little bit late. Rochelle Preston. Rebecca Yago.
Here.
Alan Cisco. Leah Matthews.
Here.
Adrian Wanaha, present. Robert Helwig.
Robert informed me that he would have to miss this meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. And that concludes the roll call. I'm not sure. I think our next item is meeting minutes. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review the minutes from January 13th. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I make a motion to accept the minutes from January 13th, 2026.
Thank you, Tanika. Do we have a second?
This is Karen. I'll second those minutes.
Karen, second. All those abstaining from the vote, please signify now. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition to the approval of the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are accepted. And Brandon, I do not believe we have public comment for today.
No, I did not receive any requests for public comment.
And I do not see guests in the room there with you. Would that be accurate?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Well, then we will move to our next agenda item. And Ellie Fisher has just alerted me that she should be joining the meeting by 2:30.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is David DiBernardo, and I am the manager of residential lending. Today, I am seeking authorization to enter into a rental gap program loan agreement with HARP LLC or a related entity in an amount of up to $1,250,000 for the renovation and repair of 35 single-family rental housing units known as HARP. HARP stands for the Hazelwood Affordable Rental Preservation Project, which seeks to support development without displacement. HARP LLC is 100% owned by the nonprofit Community Development Corporation, Hazelwood Initiative Incorporated. HARP LLC has purchased and currently manages 61 properties, 59 of which are rented to tenants earning between 30 and 50% of area median income. Today's request specifically supports completing repairs across 35 of these units, which are also the recipients of $1.86 million PHFA HOP MF grant award. Many of these units have significant deferred maintenance, which needs to be addressed, and currently 9 of the 35 units are vacant due to this condition. The URA's architecture, engineering, and inspections team has worked closely with Hazelwood Initiative and the general contractor, Volpat Construction Corporation, to inspect each of the 35 properties and develop a scope of work prioritizing critical repairs. These improvements will enhance safety and quality of life for tenants and return all 35 units to a habitable condition. This investment will also help ensure that HARP LLC remains financially sustainable and that affordable rental housing in Hazelwood is preserved for years to come. If authorized, this project is expected to close by March 2026, with construction completed by December of 2026. At this time, I would like to introduce the Director of Real Estate at Hazelwood Initiative Incorporated, Nancy Noska, who is joining us virtually this afternoon. Nancy?
Hello. I don't know that there's much more than I can say that you didn't cover, but we're really looking forward to getting into these units. Like David said, about 9 are vacant, but the rest are occupied. You got the AMI, but we accept vouchers. So I would say roughly 85% of our tenants of the whole portfolio hold a voucher. And our lowest rent is somewhere like $200. So we're doing it. But the units take a beating between tenants and need upgraded. And the hope is that with these funds, we can secure the long-term future of these and keep the affordability. So thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Nancy and I would now be happy to take any questions any of the advisory board members may have.
Are there questions, comments from the advisory board? Karen?
Yes, I have a question. It sounded like you said that there were still some units that people are currently living in. What is the relocation kind of plan or process?
We are not relocating anyone. We will be doing the work in the unit while it's occupied. Some of them, the work varies between the 35. They're not all total gut rehabs. So like the replacing of a furnace or something like that. Some of the work is exterior. So we don't anticipate any relocation. If there is relocation, we have units available that are sitting that are ready.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And this is Adrian. My apologies. How many actual individuals are housed in these units?
Per unit,
I
or you mean
apologize if
total?
I missed the breakdown.
That's okay. Let me see. I think I had that list. Do you want family sizes and things like that? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think I heard these unit sizes. So there's 35 single family homes. Are these
That is
2-bedroom
correct.
homes, 4-bedroom
Okay.
homes, mix?
Most of them are 2-bedroom with maybe one child. The majority of our tenants are single family females raising children. We have, I believe, the breakdown. I have the breakdown here.
You know what?
Most of them are, I would say, 18 are 2-bedroom, about 5 are 3-bedroom, a couple 4-bedroom, maybe 10 3-bedroom. But I can get that to you. I don't have the occupancy numbers of total residents
okay.
affected by this.
That's okay. The bedroom sizes gives me a little bit better thinking about that. Brandon, did I miss that? Were you trying to make a comment?
I'm sorry, I was just going to say that the bedroom sizes and unit counts for that are inside the Hoff packet. They are also broken down by AMI type, so I'd have to do math to summarize it. It looks like 20,
That's okay.
25 2-bedrooms, 9 3-bedroom, and 1 4-bedroom.
Okay. My apologies. I'm looking in my document and somehow I'm missing it.
No problem.
That's an interesting question, though. How many people is this affecting, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions, but first, this is a great project. Really excited to see projects like this come before the Hoff board. First off, you mentioned that about 85% of your tenants typically have vouchers. I noticed in the packet too, and you may have mentioned this, I could have missed it. My audio was going out a little bit, but that there in the packet, it says there will be 15 units that have project-based vouchers. Is that still a thing, or what's the
The
status?
15, yes, the 15 is for the whole portfolio, not just the 35.
Okay.
I want to say maybe of these, I think there were 6 for project-based vouchers. We are still going around and round with the Housing Authority. We have that award, and we have pre-qualified 9 tenants, but 8 units. So we'll probably chunk that out. And I don't know, think are in here. I can say, but yeah, the problem is we can't get the tenant in there till the house meets the housing quality standards, and they
Sure.
won't inspect it. So it's been I've been here 2 years, so we are really looking forward to getting in there, putting up smoke detectors, carbon monoxide, and the tenants are rough between occupancy. You know, the battery's going off and they take the smoke detector down, and then the unit fails inspection.
Gotcha.
So-
Yep. No, thanks for that. Thanks for that. That context. We deal with the same thing, so I understand
Are
your pain. Yep.
Look us up. Well, this Ray Bowman's here with me. He's my asset manager. Yeah, we're going back and forth on this. Any help we can get, we would be glad to do that, or vice versa.
Absolutely. And my other question, just out of curiosity, what was your acquisition strategy on this? So are these properties that you've owned for a while and just need to reinvest in? Was this always intended to be part of a larger project? Just kind of curious what your approach was on it.
Sure. I wasn't here during the acquisition. It was David Bruton was the previous director. They purchased in 3 years the 60-some properties. Some of them are connected, so maybe 62. He was one single landlord. So they purchased all of these from a landlord, and we
Okay.
have tenants who had been with him for 9 to 10 years. We didn't dislocate any of them. The strategy was, he was letting them go, and he was one of the biggest landlords in the neighborhood. That was an opportunity to get, and the strategy is to hold on to these to keep them affordable. And we want to reach, the goal is to reach 900 total, but it's a challenge. You have 65 yards, 65 sidewalks.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely. And was that an initial acquisition? Was that funded through the Bridgeway Capital Fund, or was that a different?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we got Federal Home Loan Bank money in there somewhere, different grants. It's a myriad of funding, but the
Gotcha.
acquisition was funded by Bridgeway Capital.
Okay, great. And then my last question. Sorry for so many, but just curious the role of the URA's architecture and engineering team. We had a project similar to this from the ELDI team the last meeting, and I haven't seen them as involved to this degree. And I'm just kind of curious what their role was in addition to kind of helping.
Yeah, I was surprised. We went through
scope.
all 35 units. Even the ones that were occupied. It was a feat within a matter of 2 weeks, and the contractor went through. They were verifying our scope of work. They then added to that scope of work for things that they saw that needed to be done. We've been working on this for 2 or 3 years. We're at our 3rd contractor, so we got a good contractor. Anything else, Ray? Do you want to add on that?
No, I don't think so.
If I could,
But
I'll just
David, you might want to answer the rest.
No, I thought you did a great job, Nancy, but I'll just add that our architecture and engineering team were submitted with a scope of work, and when they went and inspected the properties, they saw some things that they thought were more important that might not have been included on that initial draft scope of work, in their opinion. So after conducting 35 inspections, we had a meeting with the contractor and with Nancy and her team to kind of just collaborate on that and say, these aren't full rehabilitations at this time, as many of the projects we get are. So some things may not be able to get done this year, prioritizing with the resources available. And some things might need done that people have different opinions on just how urgent they may be, or they saw things that they didn't see listed. So that was the extent of the collaboration. And it was a very positive experience. I thought all three parties, the contractor, to Volpat's credit, Hazelwood Initiative, everyone was very receptive and kind of willing to collaborate for the good of these tenants and for this project, which we appreciate. I think everyone does.
That's great. Thanks for adding that. That's kind of what I assumed. I was curious to hear more about it, and it's always I think a positive thing to see all the groups working together in a way to make the project as good as it can be. So great work.
Thank you.
Any additional questions, comments, clarifications needed by members of the board?
Sure. Nancy, I just have one final. This is Karen. You mentioned that a percentage of the participants or the tenants have housing choice vouchers. Is that with the city of Pittsburgh, or is that with the county housing?
It's all mostly city of Pittsburgh. I think we might have one county that was ported over a couple years ago, and at that point, the county was taking charge of the ports.
Thank you.
All city of Pittsburgh mostly.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Anything else? Nothing. I appreciate your consideration.
If there is not additional dialogue from members of the board, is there someone that would like to make a motion related to this project?
I'll make the motion.
There's the language for you, James.
All right. I knew it would be there. I'd like to make a motion for the authorization to enter into a rental gap program loan agreement with HARPP LLC or a related entity in an amount of up to $1.25 million for the renovation of 35 scattered site affordable rental units located in the Hazelwood neighborhood, 15th Ward.
I'm going to exit and say thank you. Just okay. Thank you.
Do we have a second to that motion? Second.
Second.
Is that you, Leah, that I heard? Yeah. Leah has seconded the motion. Is there anyone that needs to abstain from a vote on this project?
Yes, this is Karen. I'm going to abstain.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Any other abstentions? Hearing none? Oh, or was someone about to say something? Okay, hopefully I didn't miss anyone. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition to this motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Congratulations, HARPP. Please be sure to keep us up to date with what's happening and any ways that we can continue to support the project.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. All right, moving on to URA's presentation related to the budget and expenditures.
So here is the quarterly report that you can see from updated from our last time, which I believe was November. So it's not a full quarter because we did it between quarters, but here we are trying to actually capture the same quarter system as the URA does for their quarterly reports. So it'll be lined up with that going forward. We have absolute values for funding here, funding remaining, and that's by program. We have relative values of how much is spent, the proportion out of the total. And as a reminder, it's broken into what's actually been expended, what's been committed but not expended, and what's been uncommitted. So treat.
I lost audio there.
Trying again. Okay. Yeah, my microphone went out. So treat committed as we've put it toward a project, but that project hasn't necessarily started yet. But we do know where it's going. And then uncommitted as the money that you can put to projects like what we just saw with HARP.
And just to kind of, Brandon, if you can go up just to like the totals at the bottom of this page, just kind of stay there. And what we talked about in the Heights, Kiana Wassler, Chief Housing Officer, when we first provided this report in November, we talked a little bit about, even though some of these programs do have uncommitted funds, there's a pretty strong pipeline for those programs that while we haven't necessarily taken all of the projects in the pipeline to this advisory board, to the URA board for approval yet, because they're still in underwriting, there is a pipeline. So when you look at rental gap program, the 4.6 million uncommitted there, we have a pipeline that could use much more funding than this 4.6 million in the uncommitted section. And so just want to kind of throw out, there is a little bit of nuance to some of the programs. And so we can talk about that more if there's any questions. But this, I think, this portion of the report shows a really good view of kind of how the program, the HOF funds have performed over the years. We've done an amazing job of deploying $60 million since the start of the program, committing another $9 million to very worthy efforts. And so we're happy, Brandon and I are happy to take any questions that you may have on this updated report.
I'd also
Thank you for the that explanation, because I really got excited when I saw the total. When I saw there's 12 million uncommitted, yay! That means we can get some things going. So I appreciate you explaining that. And this, I think this is extremely helpful. So thank you, URA team, for putting this together. I can imagine what this took. Looking at the totals, the deployed funds, I think you should do a story about that. That is absolutely incredible. $60 million that has been out there in our communities, just within the city of Pittsburgh. So that's amazing. But this 12 million, is there with the pipeline? I hear you saying that even with the pipeline that you all have, this is still not enough. Is there a plan in place as to how additional funds could be raised or utilized to be able to fulfill the pipeline? So HOF is not the only funding source for the rental gap program, which is probably our program that has the heftiest pipeline right now. And so we do also get the city gets home and CDBG funds from the federal government. A portion of those come to the URA, and we can use them for rental gap and down payment and closing cost assistance program. So we're always kind of forward thinking about our partners and the programs and the projects that are in the pipeline. A lot of the rental gap applications, take years to get to or a year at least to get to a closing. And so we know that we have a little bit of time to we're always continuously fundraising for that program to try to meet the demand for the closings as they are approaching. So yes, the thought is to continue to fundraise through the city, continue to fundraise hopefully through HOF, we can continue to get allocations. We do have a 2026 allocation towards the rental gap program on the way next year. And so just kind of continuing that multifaceted fundraising for actually a lot of the programs on the list.
Thank you.
I would like to add as well that we have each program broken apart by program year if there is interest in seeing that, or we can just stick with this big overview.
So you can see in the rental gap program, since we're going through it, I'll give it some explanation. There are some uncommitted funds in pink in 23, 24, and 25. Again, as I mentioned, these projects that we use rental gap program funds for oftentimes are taking approximately a year or more to get to a closing. And so you can see we have millions of dollars committed to projects that are going through underwriting, attempting to get to that closing table. And without our funds, they would not be able to close. So sometimes we're holding on to funding a little bit longer than what the advisory board may think is reasonable, but that's part of the reason why you'll see these funds left in various years. Do you want to go to the next one? Housing Stabilization Program is our rental assistance program. The 2019 uncommitted amount is something that was an accounting error in our system. And so since we have uncovered this error, we are working with our partner, which is Action Housing for the Housing Stabilization Program, to get an updated commitment to them so that they can utilize these funds. Down payment and closing cost assistance, similar conversation for the older years of funding. They were accounting errors that we have discovered. And so we are, that program is very active, as you can see. And so we will utilize any old money first that was uncovered in those accounting errors, and then go and use the 2025 funds. Homeowner Assistance Program. There's some small little uncommitted funds over the years. 2024, a portion of that, actually, this isn't totally correct. 1.5 million is committed to our partner, Action Housing. And so the uncommitted funding there is not the right dollar amount. But the 2025, a portion of 2024 and the 2025 funds for the HAP program are truly uncommitted, available to consider opening a new round this year. I think part of what we talked about in our retreat late last year is planning for the HAP round for 2026. And so we can look at how Action is performing in the pilot of supporting the URA and opening a round on our behalf from 2024, and determine what is our path for 2026 with the 2025 funds plus a portion of 2024. We'll update this and send out an updated number to the advisory board by the end of the week for the right number there. For Sale Development Program, these funds are truly uncommitted in these years, as you see them in pink. Something the advisory board should be aware of is that the URA has opened an application round for the For Sale Development Program. We are moving this program from a rolling application or accepting them throughout the year as they come to now opening 2 rounds per year. This will help us administratively fundraise for the program and prepare in a better way to make sure we're able to serve folks, our developer partners, our nonprofit partners who are winning awards from other agencies. So they go to PHFA, they go to the Federal Home Loan Bank. They always come to us last. And so we want to open this program in rounds to know what they're doing, what they're applying for, so that we can kind of prepare ourselves and our fundraising to be able to meet their need. And so there's a round open right now. We expect that the 2024 and potentially 2025 funds could get kind of committed in that application round. It closes at the end of the month.
Question.
Yes.
This is Ellie Fisher. Where do we find the information about this round that's open? And the details of when it closes?
Yes, thank you, Ellie. The URA made a social media post on all of our social media yesterday. We are also going to be sending an email blast to our nonprofit partners who do this work, so that you will also be receiving an email with additional information for the application.
Oh, okay. So it hasn't gone out yet.
It has gone out. Our social media has gone out yesterday. The email hopefully will go out today.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to check URA's Facebook or LinkedIn, we can send you that link now just so you have access to it. Or you can wait for an email hopefully today.
I think the email will work great. Thank you.
Thanks. And then the legal assistance program, there are no uncommitted funds for this program at this time. Small landlord fund, we show that there's approximately $200,000 uncommitted for 2023. However, we do have we closed this program last year because we had more applications in the pipeline than we had funding for. So what we are doing right now is working our way through all existing applications to attempt to commit these remaining funds to folks who have already kind of applied to us. And based on the maximum small landlord loan that our developers are eligible for is $100,000. So this could get taken up potentially by several projects or maybe two. So we will update you all with this information on the next quarterly report as to how we've advanced these uncommitted funds. And then our demonstration program, which I think we're going to have a hearty conversation, a continued conversation with today. Again, a small accounting error for 2019, finding $37,000 in funding there. The 2024 funds are mostly committed. There's a small amount of $391 remaining. But I think our conversation, and 2024 went to emergency needs. 2025, I think the goal is to open an application round for innovation in housing. And so all of those funds are available, $300,000 for demo whenever we open that application. And then for administration, the URA is allowed to take 10% of the $10 million per year used towards administration of the fund. In 2021, there was additional funds added to the program. And what we did with a portion of those admin costs is held some back so that we can pay for support to the advisory board. We use those uncommitted funds, $38,000, to help pay for translation services if needed, the folks who come to the meeting to interpret, and other things, just administrative needs for the advisory board. And so that small amount of money has lasted for a long time to help support the advisory board meetings. And I think that's the last piece. Any other questions on this report?
No questions. Just really appreciate walking through this. I think this is really helpful for me as I think through how we're spending and how we're allocating for future years. One issue I did want to raise, just for to keep it on the radar, I guess, more so than for conversation today, and that is so taking rental gap fund and understanding that we have a lot of projects in the pipeline and limited funds. One thing that I'm always kind of wrestling with is we have a lot of good projects coming before us, but it's kind of first come first serve because it's a rolling application, and how we kind of balance projects against one another. So if say we had a project that was good, solid, and it came before us, and we used up the remaining funds in rental gap program, and then we had a great project a couple months later that we couldn't support. I'm just kind of curious how or if we think about projects in that way, since we're just kind of seeing what's before us and not what might be coming down the pipeline.
That's a great question, James. Tanika's, I see you.
Yeah, it's like I'm playing double dutch. Is it my turn? My turn. I'm not speaking on behalf of the URA. I'm just I think that is the main question whenever you have a rolling grant cycle, right?
Yeah.
An alternate way to, and you already know this, James. So like the alternate way to combat that is by having hard deadlines, and then there's a whole approval, right? There's a whole approval process. So there's pros and cons to both. And I believe that this having it rolling allowed it to keep it open to anyone. And so people weren't restricted to having a hard deadline. But there's a pro to that. To your point, James, there's a pro to having a hard deadline because then it forces individuals to pull things together at a certain time by a certain deadline. And then there's a whole a process, a rubric to be able to approve those projects and to weight them. The rolling allows it to be open and it makes it more accessible to individuals. But so that's just that's just the Tanika Harris explanation on it. Just because we deal with that as well at Catapult, we think through how that works, right? And yeah, there's pros and cons to both sides.
Yeah, it's a great question. I agree. There are pros and cons to both sides. And I think the way that we are able to work through that with the rental gap program is we kind of take the mission of the program, which is gap financing. We are that last money into a project. And so we have some projects in our pipeline who are still fundraising. There's still more gap than we are allowed to provide through our guidelines. And so those maybe kind of are taking a backseat to things that are ready to go. And moving towards a closing, right? Because they have all their other financing in place. And so we try not to really turn anyone down. It really depends on them being able to fundraise for a project. And if they can get all of those funds needed and but for our last gap financing into the deal, then we will try to support their project as long as we have the funds available. So hopefully that, if there's any fear that like we don't have money left or anything like that, hopefully that just kind of alleviates any of that. And we do, try to support as many projects as we can, but also like be reasonable about what's shovel ready to go versus needs a little bit more work.
But I think there is a deeper piece to that, Kiana, that members of the board continue to bring up, which is about actually evaluating projects. When you have, variable timelines and you have variable budgets, and it's hard to benchmark. It's hard to, more efficiently and effectively quantify the projects. And there was a subcommittee that was meeting for quite some time on rental gap, just related to, it's apples versus bananas, and it's one moment in time with one project that's brought in front of us, instead of, really thinking about benchmarking projects against each other. And I think that was one of the concerns that I've continued to hear is how do we do a better job of quantifying the projects from an impact perspective, just from a costing perspective. We've had projects that have asked us for very large awards, but the projects were expansive projects, and the units that were being created or rehabbed were, very impressive. But people were still concerned about giving one project what felt like a larger award than other projects. So I think that there's a couple more layers to it that hopefully we can continue to massage how we're thinking about projects, not just in a moment in time and the soundness of that particular project, but how those projects stand up against one another to some degree. I think that might be, where folks are having some, philosophical issues.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think we can start to take a look at the past couple of years of portfolio projects. My recommendation would be we should, if we want to like kind of do an apples to apples review, is like look at smaller, like maybe a 10 unit or less project and compare them against each other versus comparing a low income housing tax credit project against those smaller projects. And the reason for that is, if you have 40 or 50 units, you have economies of scale. It's maybe less per unit, maybe not. And so it's hard to compare these other projects that have like a massive undertaking in their soft costs and other things versus like a smaller project. And so I do think we do have a lot of interesting smaller projects from newer developers that we could maybe compare them against each other, compare them to each other, compare our larger deals, do some benchmarking that way, and then also look at it as a whole portfolio as well.
So I thought that was a good segue to discussing how we want to look at reporting going forward, since I know that has been a question.
So I guess what Brandon's asking is, do you want us to start reporting on some additional items other than just kind of how much funding is spent in the month or the quarter, how much funding is remaining? What else would the advisory board be looking to the URA to provide additional information on? I can tell you for our development type of programs like rental gap program, small landlord fund, for sale development program, we can just thinking about our system and the data that we pull kind of for our URA quarterly reports, we would be able to easily provide information on how many units we funded, what those AMI levels are. We can potentially map and get neighborhoods and things like that. So those are just maybe some things to think about to start the conversation about what is there additional information that the advisory board feels you would want us to be reporting to you and to the public so that there's a better understanding of kind of how these funds are being used and how they're supporting the people of Pittsburgh.
So thoughts from board members related to key items that we want to start taking a look at?
I guess this is Karen. One of the things that was exciting when I first saw this come up on the screen was that I was almost like Tanika. I was like busting out of my seat, like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. This is, this is great work. This is what we do. But I was just thinking about when we do our surveys and how little people know about what we really do. And I'm thinking more specifically when we're in our communities and we're telling them, complete this survey. But instead of saying, do you know that we have provided X, Y, and Z dollars to support this project? Or do you know that this many people have been, served in our rental gap program? I mean, just a narrative that really, expels about who we are and what we do. We do great work and we do great work with you. But I'm just not sure we're communicating, the things that we're doing that are tangible for people to really put there. I mean, yeah, those that are in the development, yes, they understand that, but I'm just talking about those people that we survey. And I say that because I'm often involved in, surveying the community and, asking them questions, and hopefully we're looking at our survey and making sure we're doing expenditures and, reports based on, what we know people need and people want. But I just think we're just not telling our story well enough. But that's just my commentary. But thank you for the report, because this is certainly that committed, the uncommitted was kind of where I always stood at, like, do I know how much do we have? Are we okay? And I trust the URA has us. I do. I just want to be a better member in terms of telling our story as well. So, but thank you.
And Karen, I love that you brought that to the table. I think the flip side of telling our story is, what is our story? We want folks to know what has happened out of the Housing Opportunity Fund. And I think, and this is just my perception, is that sometimes we don't know what has happened. We may have funded a development, but we don't really know when it launches. We don't really know who's using it. We don't really know if a program had created a situation where someone had a more favorable housing option than the alternatives. We don't really have numbers of people, families. What do families look like? Where are these projects happening? I think back to all the projects that we've reviewed and approved and have moved forward. Having an understanding of any one of those stories, let alone all of those stories of each fund award that happened, has been really challenging. And I'll pick on Action for just a quick moment. Even though Action's been on our board this whole time, we don't even really know what's happening with Action's projects. And I don't think it's because Action didn't want to tell us. I think that we just don't have a mechanism to really understand a project, its completion, who's being served, how are they being served, what did that mean? I mean, in some of the projects, it really literally is the difference between somebody being in shelter or someone being in a more restrictive environment, like a nursing home, and the housing that was provided. I think it's hard to tell our story because I personally don't feel like I know what our story is. So I think it's both of those sides. It's the what, it's the who, it's the where, it's the how. But I just don't think that we've seen all the things that the URA has seen, because you're involved in the project in a different way. And being able to pull all of that forward in a way that has meaning, that really starts to build a story, I think for me personally is what I'm looking for. And I'm wondering, what exactly others are looking for.
Adrian, I'm about to pull my Adrian hat on right now. Hearing you say that, what I'm hearing, advisory board members, is that there should be a subcommittee, a marketing or communication subcommittee that can work in tandem with the URA, some of the URA team, to be able to ask those questions and put a marketing plan together to be able to tell the story, and also to be able to help fundraise to get more dollars in. Because when you tell the story, others also, people buy into what you believe, not what you do. They buy into what you believe. And so if we believe as advisory board members in the work, then we will be able to gather other champions. So I'm just thinking about some, and I know you brought up committees before, so that's why I said I'm putting my Adrian hat on. So this sounds like a great opportunity. I know you have. So I think that this is a really good opportunity to revisit those committees and to work with the URA's communication team.
And I'm going to make a note to myself with that, Tanika, that it's the data and the story.
It's all
being
together.
able to have both.
Yep. That's the impact. Absolutely.
And hi, it's Kiana. I just want to confirm, it sounds like the advisory board feels like it would be, or folks feel like it would be useful to have a report on kind of when we've closed and construction has started, when a project is complete, and maybe in lease up. Maybe you want to reach out to your the folks in your world who may want to live in these rental units or for sale opportunities. So it sounds like it's a combination of additional data to report, but also maybe an opportunity for the advisory board members to connect their, I can't even think of the word, connect the folks you are here to represent.
Constituents?
Yes, connect the constituents you're here to represent to some of the opportunities that are available. Is that correct?
I think that's a piece of it.
Okay.
I think that there's two parallel conversations here. Impact and outcomes. Some of that may look a little different. Some of that may be more numeric. But then this, thinking of what actually touches people in a real way, what was made possible, and those really good, integral, tangible stories of the dollars. I think that there's two sides to this coin. And I like this thought about a committee and a work group, because this particular item has come up every year that I've been part of the HOF, which at this point is a staggering amount of time. And we haven't quite answered the question or fixed the problem. So I do think that a committee or work group that's really trying to look at both sides of, what's the hard data, what's the soft data, and what's the story. And not just putting that on the URA, but doing that in a collaborative way that enhances all of our knowledge, understanding, and can help us make better decisions.
So we are happy to, maybe after the meeting, circulate an interest email regarding a committee. We can circulate kind of I think there are 4 committees created under the Housing Opportunity Fund legislation. And so we're happy to kind of circulate, just thinking about this and all the other items that are important to the advisory board, circulate what those committees are, and garner any interest to join any of them. And we'll start to schedule meetings for that.
And we'll always be looking for leadership in those conversations. So as you're thinking about a committee, I would encourage everyone to not just think about information that you would like to have or glean, or ways that you'd like to engage, but also, is this a place where your talents, leadership, and knowledge could really help move us forward in a different way? All right, well, thank you, everyone. Good discussion, and we have some follow-up steps. And now the fun stuff. Process review of the demonstration grants for innovation. So Brandon was kind enough to do some edits and changes and get those back out to us. Hopefully folks had a little bit of time to take a look. First impressions, thoughts?
Would you like
Does
me
it
to
feel like it resonates more than the last draft?
Would you like me to pull the draft application up onto the screen?
I think that would be great.
Okay.
Thanks, Brandon. So again, we'd be looking at $337,000 that are in the demonstration project budget at this point. Is that correct, Kiana?
Approximately, yes. I'd have to look back at the report. Sorry. At least $300,000 for sure.
And our hope with this particular round of applications would be to look at innovations in housing, affordable housing, housing services.
Correct. So last year we created this new application process where there was not an application process for the demonstration program. And so thanks to Adrian and the advisory board members for a push on that. And we decided last year when we created this process, you all decided that because just everything that was happening in the world, right, in the city of Pittsburgh as well. Emergency needs should be the primary focus of the 2024 dollars. And so we were able to support two different requests with those 2024 dollars. Last year, we also determined that innovation is something that the advisory board should focus on. And so once we kind of supported emergency needs, we could then look into the potential for innovative housing projects to come forth in 2025. And so we've attempted to update the application that was used for the emergency needs to help support an innovation application round. I believe the minimum grant amount is at least $25,000. So we would be looking for developers or people in the city of Pittsburgh that don't want to kind of do one-off innovative housing opportunities for themselves to live in. We're looking for kind of an example, a pilot, something that could be replicated potentially across the city. So something innovative, not necessarily able to be funded through one of the programs that already exist in the HOF, but some innovation opportunity here. So I don't know, Brandon, if you want to go over any of the other changes specifically that are in the application.
I think the main thing that I want to bring up is that some of the questions may flow oddly on this PDF. It is because this is a PDF version of something that would actually be online. So some of these questions won't necessarily appear unless you answer a certain way. So I know that some people have gone to me and said, you know, hey, this question doesn't make sense. And it's like, well, it does if you answer no and in that context. So that's just the one thing I want to bring up.
And realistically, what we were trying to accomplish here was the ideas of things that could positively impact our housing arena. So really asking folks who, what, where, and why. And those are, you know, the big questions where we oftentimes see that there might be a specific group or a specific geography or a specific type of housing that doesn't fit as neatly into an existing box or an existing funding source, or unique needs that just fly under our radar that we may really want to take a deep look at as a community in the city of Pittsburgh. So who do you hope to serve? What do you hope to provide, whether that's physical housing, a housing service, a housing related activity? Why do you want to do that? What evidence have you seen? What have you experienced in your practice, both anecdotal and a data standpoint? Is there a specific place that you want to make these services or this housing available? So it's giving folks that opportunity, just like we did in the last funding round, of saying this doesn't typically fit somewhere, but we know it's a need. In this particular case, with this application, what we're trying to help folks do is to test some concepts to be able to have the opportunity to resource something they haven't been able to do in the past, but feel strongly could be successful and impactful. So you'll see, the questions try to align with that who, what, where, why. And if folks have this in front of you and want to ask specific questions from your review or want to ask questions as Brandon is slowly scrolling, we do ask folks a little bit about have they participated in HOF funding in the past, to have an idea of partners that are coming back to the funds, the type of work that they've done.
But would that deter approval, or it's just
Nope.
for information? Okay, so it's okay
Just
if they have.
contextual.
Okay.
I really don't have too much to add on this, mainly because I think this draft has really incorporated a lot of what at least I heard in terms of feedback from the board the last time we discussed this. And I think also once this gets out there, we start getting applications. I think that'll be the kind of next steps to maybe refining it the next time around, just seeing what comes in, and that might give us some guidance on what might be missing or what we could refine. But I think this is staff's done a really good job incorporating the comments that I heard at the last meeting.
Great.
And to James's point, I think it would be good to add pilot to this, because then it shows that we can make some adjustments later. So this is a pilot. And pilots are important that this is not set in stone forever and ever and ever. But it's not a grandfathered account, and
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have this broken into pilot or short term. So that is one of the options. So
I'm talking about
the upfront language.
The upfront, yes, exactly. The upfront
Gotcha.
language.
Okay.
Yes. So yes, to your point, yes, the program, but also what this is, what we're unveiling is a pilot. To James's point, he was saying, and as applications come in, we can possibly make some adjustments for the future rounds of the innovation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I love that piece because it stresses that this is not only something that we're trying to learn from, the community, places where the HOF could potentially be impactful, but also, the board's learning about how our funding cycles work and what's valuable and impactful to folks who are applying, what is too onerous, what might be confusing. So I like those dualities of, we're learning on all sides with launching this particular set of funding.
I will say, Brandon and I and others on the team have talked a lot about potentially scoring these. If that is an opportunity here. And I think just for those who are newer with the emergency funding, we kind of went with a first come, first serve model, knowing that, emergency needs will have just kind of like an urgent need, and we wanted to fund whatever was in front of us, and the advisory board had the opportunity to hear from the applicants and determine yes or no whether we would fund those or not. I think we want to kind of go with a first come, first serve opportunity with innovation as well. I'm looking at Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong. Because we could get, if Adrian, you mentioned apples to apples, we're definitely not going to get apples to apples in an innovation round. We could get something no one's ever seen before. Or we could get something that's just like a little bit different than, or maybe folks have seen before. We just haven't had any active project of that type recently in Pittsburgh. So, our thought is we do want to just kind of take application, we'll open a round for a period of time, let folks apply to that, and maybe we keep it open longer than 30 days. Maybe we give it a longer time period so folks can plan and come up with what that innovation will look like. As Brandon is segueing us into coming up with a timeline.
These layups. So.
I know, yeah. So just wanted to let the advisory board know that's our thought about innovation in regards to scoring applications against each other and determining who gets selected and who doesn't. And like to hear from you all about that.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly say, I think that we didn't want this to be open and rolling. And, I think the first come, first serve could be misleading. I think what we had hoped to do was just be a little bit more mindful, since we had time related to these projects, to, allow us to collect for a period of time and screen all of those. As opposed to, you got yours in the first 3 days, so your application is going to be reviewed and brought in front of the board in the next 2 weeks. And maybe I misunderstood, but that's what I was hearing folks saying, so that we had a little bit of time. These are not going to be apples to apples, absolutely. But also feeling like when we got applications and we were reviewing them right away, and we didn't know what was coming, that maybe people would have made different decisions if they knew, if they had a better sense of, there's 10 organizations that applied in our 60-day window, and we could take a look at all 10 of those, as opposed to by the time we have 2, then there's really no conversation left.
I agree with what Adrian said. This is Ellie Fisher. I'd like to suggest we do a period of 3 to 4 months.
I agree with that too. I don't think we should do it as a rolling. I think we should do it as maybe a 1 or 2 date when it has to be submitted by, because I think it's going to be hard to rate them, because they're all going to be different, vastly different. There isn't really a commonality for these other than addressing affordable housing. So that would be my thought, is to have a deadline, whether it's just 1 time or 2 times, maybe do 1 first and second quarter and 1 for the third and fourth quarter.
I would support that as well, because one of the things I thought we talked about is that we want innovation. We want to see projects that perhaps we've never seen before, but if we don't have an opportunity to see more than 1 or 2, that may limit our judgment. So I certainly would support, it's open this date, it closes this date, it's brought before the HOF, and we kind of look at all of them on their individual merits.
And my apologies to everyone. When Kiana was talking, I was shaking my head. I did not mean to be giving that message to anyone. So my apologies.
We saw it.
What was that?
You're grayed out, so we didn't even see it.
Oh my goodness. So I was in my own head processing something, and I try not to have my own opinion of something be something that's super visible to everybody. So my apologies for that. Maybe my camera is blessing me today with doing whatever nonsense it's doing at the moment.
So thinking of, before we get to kind of like dates in the year of when we want to open the round, I think for emergency, we maybe kept it open until the funds ran out. And so it sounds like here we're going to determine a timeline. When it closes, we bring all of those, all of the respondents forth to the advisory board at one time, so you all can kind of make a decision based on everything that's come to us, which I think that's a great idea. I heard Ellie say a 3 to 4 month period of the application being open. Is there any more discussion around that, or is that kind of what others agree with as well?
No, I think that's great. I would say, even before we open it, and I know that's like a rule of thumb for URA, that we tease it so that way we can make sure we get some really good,
Mhm.
yeah. What's wrong, Ellie?
Sorry, I'm doing what Adrian was trying not to do.
So what I was saying is if we
I'm fine,
tease it,
sorry.
no, okay. So I was just saying, like, if we tease it, like, this is coming up, and it's going to open up this date. I think that'll be great just to build the momentum so that we can get some really great people have an opportunity to be able to apply.
So I'm
And
gonna
Tanika, I'm sorry. So Tanika, you're also reinforcing something that Ellie had mentioned earlier, which is if it's not marketed well, then people might miss it.
Yeah.
So there was some marketing that was done for one of the URA programs already, but if people were not going to that source, maybe they miss it. So thank you for bringing that back full circle. We want to have some comprehensive outreach so people do know this is out there and available.
I am going to throw out an application opening date for discussion, and that way we can decide if that is enough time to market and edit or it's not. So for discussion, April 15th as an application opening date.
Tax day?
I was about to say that. Tax day. You can't forget that.
I totally forgot that. You can tell it's not on my mind.
Can I ask why you'd start with a date so far from now?
So we are in the February board meeting, and the March board meeting will be here before you know it. So that gives us a good month to actually get everything figured out and approved, and then a month to market.
Okay, so it would get approved at the March URA board meeting, a month for marketing, say it's opening. So you have a month to say it's opening, and then it has 3 months of being open. And then it's closed at the end of summer, or whatever that math is.
But do we have to approve again? I mean, I think if we finalize our thinking in today's conversation, we would be in, wouldn't today be the approval date as opposed to the next meeting?
Yeah, I think it's just mostly an announcement at the board meeting.
Okay, great.
And I do think it would be worthwhile to allow the for sale development program application timeline to finish before we open another, different program, just for staff's benefit and for folks who may want to respond's benefit, so that they're not, doing two things at the same time. So we're closing for sale at the end of February. It'll take us approximately 30 days to work through those applications. And so I do think like in April or late March or something like that, opening does make sense for us administratively as well.
Oh, I like April launch. I just don't like April 15th launch. I think that has its own
Earlier or later?
its own stigma. I'm not wedded to either one. I just think anytime you have like a large looming deadline, it takes people's mind off what you're focused on.
So what about Monday the 13th? Because April 15th is a Wednesday.
I mean, could it just be the 1st? That'd be an easy thing to market. It'll be open on April 1st.
April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
Yes, it can be the 1st.
Boy, vey, too many things.
We could make a fun little marketing thing out of it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
We're not trying to fool you. This is a real opportunity. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe opening April the 1st and then closing May the 29th. Or I'm sorry, we went 3 months. June 30th.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking at days of the week. Yeah, that's a Tuesday.
Yep.
That sounds great to me.
Yeah.
Others? Does that seem like a...
Agreed. Yeah. Sounds good.
Yes. Wonderful.
Actually, I just want to say this, that our advisory board meeting our meeting after that would be the 7th. And so I just want to make
Of
sure
July.
of July. And I
Yeah.
want to make sure everyone understands we wouldn't be ready by the 7th to bring forth all of the proposals for you all to review, right? We can bring an update on a summary on how many proposals we received, a high level summary, but we more than likely won't be ready to bring, in the middle of July, we can send out information to the advisory board prior to the meeting, prior
That's totally understandable.
to the
Kiana.
August
Yeah.
meeting. Okay, just want to confirm that. Okay.
Yeah, and Kiana, that is actually a really good segue into one of the things that the URA did for us that was great in the first round of applications was, taking out applications and letting us know sort of why they were taken out. So even in that July 7th meeting, having an update on numbers received and numbers that can move forward, because there may be applications for one reason or another that can't move forward. And I'm remembering some of the, items from the first round where people applied for 3 to 4 times more funding than was available, or maybe something that they wanted to do didn't focus on the city. So there may be applications that, as they're coming in, you're going to see pretty quickly may not be applications that we can consider. And I think you did a great job of going back to those organizations and just letting them know why those applications wouldn't move forward. Is that something that we can do as we're rolling along, or is that going to need to wait until you have all of them together?
Yes, I think we can do that on a rolling basis throughout the
Great,
application
thank you.
period. You're welcome. Now, if we tell them that in May, they may come back, right? And with an updated application or an updated request. So just want to throw that out there that they may try to bring it forth again. And we will review it again when they do. Okay, so it sounds like opening April 1st, closing June 30th, and then for the August, we'll prepare to approve projects at the August advisory board meeting, review and potentially approve projects.
So,
Great.
okay, then should we consider the application approved at this point as well?
Yes.
And I'm not going to lie, I do not remember if we did a vote on the last one, Kiana. That we got some advice from legal. Did we need to formally do I'm sorry, I should have looked that up before this meeting.
I think we voted to approve the program guidelines, and as long as the application kind of meets the guideline standards, I think we'd be okay without approving it. So the guidelines are approved, the application as drafted does kind of follow the standards of the guidelines, which are pretty loose because we know innovation is included in there. So I think we'd be okay if we just wanted to make sure the advisory board felt like the application can get to will be enough for you all to be able to review innovative responses against each other to be able to, select an awardee or several awardees.
Wonderful. Then I think we can say we're good to go. We have a strategy.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. This is exciting. right. Well, we've gotten to that special time of the meeting where we're going to adjourn. We have gotten to our new regular schedule, which is the first Tuesday from 2 to 4. If there's any reason that we can't utilize a specific space, Brandon will be good enough to let us know well in advance. Our hope for meetings going forward will be that they'll be hybrid and folks can join in both formats. Always, we like to have all of us together if possible. So hopefully, by the time we get to March 3rd, the weather will be a little less daunting and we can all be together. At this time, if we have no further business, if we would have a motion to adjourn.
Can I just sneak in quick? Next one will be hybrid. We do have a room reserved, so I just want to let everyone know that ahead of time. But it's only reserved as far as March, so keep looking at your emails.
Make a motion
Thanks,
to adjourn.
Brandon.
It's Ellie Fisher.
Ellie Fisher moves. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Becky Yago.
Thanks, Becky. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, thank you all. We are adjourned for February. These are
Thank you.
wonderful and exciting times here at the HOF. Thank you all for your commitment, and we look forward to seeing you next month.